You guys, One Piece chapter 1138 is here. You may be wondering, Sai, why did you wait a full 24 hours before posting this video? And to be quite honest, it's because people are banging right on top of my head. And by banging, I mean there's roof construction going on. I live in an apartment complex, so I can't really pick when they do this. But it was so loud and right above me yesterday that whenever I tried to record, you could just hear the banging going on. So I was like, okay, let's just wait a full day. And here we have it. So, chapter 1138 is going to be divided into two parts. The first part, we're going to talk about the chapter, and then the last half, we will talk about the mural as well as the Harley text. There's a lot of things to tackle, so I don't know how long this video will be, but I'll try to keep it short, sweet, and simple. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. 1138, titled Harley. We got the cover page, and we see that Who's Who is the culprit. Who would have guessed? You know, if the cat-eared beast pirate fodder and the Who's Who shaped building didn't give it away, I don't know what would. Funny enough, this cover page is actually titled The Base Belongs to Who's Who with multiple exclamation marks as if it's a mystery. It's just so funny to see. It's like, dude, who didn't know, man? Who didn't know? But to be fair, I didn't expect him to be the only person here. Well, the only notable person here. Right? Because I was expecting the Toby Ropo, maybe even Jack the Drought. You know, I had some crazy theories for Who's Who. But it's just him. And it turns out he is the one who stole Yasui's blade, probably Minatomo to build the building, as well as the geisha from around Wano. And now, it's like, why? Right? I get that he wants to live in luxury. Who wouldn't? But he's a wanted criminal. Not just around the world, but here in Wano as well, right? His boss got his ass kicked here in Wano. His whole crew got his ass kicked in Wano. So why is he here, you know, throwing his feet up, drinking sake, stealing things in broad daylight? Like, does he not know that he's gonna get caught? Like, I get it, right? Luffy's gone, Kid is gone, Law is gone. But the scabbards are here, right? Yamato is here. Like, what are we talking about, dude? Like, I remember 2 weeks ago when we realized that Who's Who might be here, we were like, oh, like, Yamato's gonna have to fight him. Of course, Yamato wins, right? Like, Yamato, you're gonna need an army to stop her. You know, I was like, oh, maybe the Toby Ropo are here, maybe Jack is here, and then they give Yamato some pushback. But now that we know that it's just Who's Who, he's cooked. He's done, dude. He's done. Oh, it's crazy to see. Him stealing Yasui's blade, it is a little bit odd that he went out of his way to antagonize Yamato. But then again, maybe it's one of his underlings that got it for him. Because we do know that Who's Who is a swordsman to an extent. Right? Funny I use that word, right? To an extent. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but his sword, it looked like it was going to be an actual katana, but when he whipped it out, it ended up being a dagger. So to an extent is kind of silly because it's like not the extent we thought. Okay, that's enough of me trying to explain the joke there. So yeah, now that we got Who's Who in the cover page, we can expect this to be wrapped up pretty damn soon. And I wonder what's going to happen to him afterwards. Are we simply going to lock him up in Udon prison, or is he going to join Yamato? Because we have noticed that there have been some parallels between Yamato and Oden's journey. During Oden's journey, he went to a hideout of thieves and gangsters. He beat them, and then they later joined him and became his retainers and just followed him. So is Who's Who going to be the same way? Right? Will Yamato beat him, and then he'll say, hey, Yamato, don't throw me in jail. I'd rather join you. I don't know. That's a rough one, right? I feel like he's a prideful guy. He used to be in CP9. Then he followed Kaido. Would he also follow Yamato? Up in the air. But now, that is it for the cover page story. Time to move on to the chapter. And we see that Loki is still conscious. I thought he tapped out last week, but he is still hanging on. But he's hanging on by a thread, right? He's huffing, he's puffing. He's hitting us with the ... And now he starts off the chapter by saying, hey, you there. You are a spitting image of red-haired Shanks. What is going on? Shamrock doesn't initially reply, which I think is very telling. Instead, he also hits us with a ... Gunko follows it up by saying, mind your own business. This matter has nothing to do with you. And I love how she says this because it kind of implies that she knows about Shanks, right? She knows that Shamrock and Shanks are related. She's like, whoa. Don't worry about it, guy. Don't worry about it. And Loki goes on and he says, a great pirate and a celestial dragon. They're polar opposites. You can't blame me for being curious. Anyone would find it strange that you two share the same face. And that is when Shamrock hits us with the ... exclamation mark. So you know this is kind of getting under his skin to an extent, right? He wants to talk about it. He feels a little bit sore about this topic. And that is when he says, the pirate you're referring to is my younger twin brother. He went astray. At one point, he did return to the Holy Land, but it seems he grew too attached to the filthy lower world of the surface. All right, so we have a little bit to unpack right here. Based off of Shamrock's dialogue, I can't really get a feel on how he feels about Shanks. Does he love Shanks? Does he hate Shanks? Is he troubled by Shanks? It looks like the answer is somewhere in the middle, right? Because he's like, yeah, my younger brother, he went astray. He came home one time, but he didn't want to come back home like that. And it's like, does he feel bad? Like, does he feel like Shanks is missing out on the life or something? I wonder. And then as far as Shanks returning to the Holy Land, when did that happen? Did that happen with Roger? Like when he was a part of the Roger Pirates, like they went up there, they saw each other, and then they left? Or was this later on in life? Like maybe after Shanks became an established pirate, after Shanks realized he was a Garland. And also, I wonder how he came to that revelation. Did Roger tell him that he stole him from God Valley? Or did Shanks naturally find out through maybe ancient writing or some history? We don't know, Also, it'd be really cool if maybe they sent Shanks a letter. Like, Shanks is a prominent pirate. We know that they can deliver news coup. They have carrier bats from the world government. So maybe they sent Shanks a letter saying, hey, little brother, come home. Like, we gotta see you. I wonder. So, we go on, and Loki says, oh, he returned. It's funny how I ended up hating both of you brothers. And I thought my grudge couldn't get any worse. What a family. You bastards. Well, he keeps on going on, huh? When I get out of these chains, you know what I'll do, right? I'll make it my mission to make sure my buddies are avenged. And that's when Shamrock says, hey, are you threatening me? Gunko says, Captain, again, you don't have to do or say anything. And then he says, I know. He isn't worth getting my hands dirty over. Isn't that right? Cerberus pulls out the sword, and we see the three-headed dog from hell come out of it. My God! This is a great revelation. Going back to the Shanks portion for 1 second, I do wonder if Shamrock is actually mad that Loki threatened him, or mad at the fact that he threatened Shanks as well, right? Because Loki says he's gonna get revenge on both brothers, not just Shamrock, but both brothers. So again, it's like, how does Shamrock feel about Shanks being brought into this conversation? But either way, he whips out the Cerberus, and with this, it is confirmed that the Blackbeard has a Cerberus Devil Fruit theory is dead in the water. Whoa, for the longest time, ever since we first saw Blackbeard's Jolly Roger, that has been a theory. This is a theory that's been in the making for around 18 years. It has been that long. Because Blackbeard's Jolly Roger has 3 skulls, people were wondering what kind of ability he has. They saw the scratch mark on Shanks, and they said, it's gotta be a Cerberus, guys, it's gotta be. But with this, it is cooked. And I'm gonna be honest, I've actually never been a big fan of the Blackbeard Cerberus theory, but I enjoyed it because it kind of made sense to an extent. So seeing Oda just take that and say, nope, give it a Shamrock is pretty damn cool, right? It keeps us on our toes, which I really love. I like it when theories actually don't come true to an extent, because it's like, wait, if it's not that, then the possibilities. The gates are open again, guys. So now that we got the Cerberus coming out of his sword, we see its monstrous form. And not only is it huge, massive, and monstrous, but it also has black flame clouds, like the Gors say, like an awakened Zoan. And it's missing the Devil Fruit moniker. Oh, yep. It doesn't say it's a Cerberus fruit, it just says Cerberus. And this right here is very reminiscent of the Gorosei transformations. Why are Devil Fruits not listed for any of the Elder Stars? Why is a Devil Fruit not listed for the Cerberus here? What is going on? We know that Oda has not forgotten it, because last week, we learned that Gunko has the Arrow no Mi. Oda, why are you omitting it? What is he hiding? Is this on purpose? Personally, you guys know me, I think so. I think there will be a thing where a lot of the God Knights and Elders do not actually have Devil Fruits, and instead, they have these monstrous forms. And with that being the case, I do think that Gunko is going to be a rare exception. Because she isn't given the World Noble title, and she's simply a God Knight, I think that is why she has a Paramecia Devil Fruit, the Arrow no Mi. And of course, She's a paramecia among what? 6 mythological creatures, right? Like, she doesn't fit in. Like, we got a Cerberus, Itsumade, we got a Sandworm, Gyuki, Hyoki, and we also have the Bokotsu. And then we have the Ero no Mi. Like, one of those doesn't fit in, right? So I think Gunko will be a rare exception, while everyone else has these monstrous forms. And here's the thing, this isn't even Shamrock's form. This is his sword, right? So there's still a chance that Shamrock either has a different devil fruit, or he has another monstrous Emu Gorosei transformation. The possibilities are crazy. Shamrock is looking insane. And bro, the Cerberus, I don't know if you guys remember, but we've seen a Cerberus before in One Piece. That is right. We saw one at the very beginning of Thriller Bark. And that is one reason why I didn't think we'd see a Cerberus in the series. I was like, oh, like, you know, I was listing out all the classical monsters Oda could bring into the story, but I didn't mention the Cerberus because we've seen it already. Granted, it's like a hodgepodge, you know, Thriller Bark version of it that Dr. Hogback and Gekko Mori created, but I said, oh, like, maybe Oda won't reuse that idea. But not only did he reuse that idea, but he made it 100 times better. Because not only is it just a 3-headed dog, it's a 3-headed dog that can shoot swords out of their mouths and can detach their heads. What? Yes. Oh man, there's a lot here to unpack. Loki is so confused. He says, what the hell is that? Which is something from Loki, right? Because Loki's been on the seas. He's seen devil fruits before. He has a crazy legendary fruit and he hangs out with animals. But he sees the Cerberus and he's like, what the hell? What is this? And that is when we cut to Shamrock and he says, this right here, it's my biting blade. Well, actually, he says, this is my sword, but the way he says sword is a play on words to actually say, this is my dog. So that is why TCB kind of went with, it's my biting blade, to give a nice taste of his line. So after he says that, we see that the heads actually detach. Their collars start spinning, and they start flying in the air like little helicopters. You know, trying to understand the logic behind how this works is crazy, but let's just say it's happening, right? It reminds me of the Beast Pirates with Queen, right? Queen was a dinosaur, he's a Brachiosaurus, but at the same time, his neck could detach and shoot out. And then we also had Sasuke. Sasuke had a Triceratops Devil Fruit, but at the same time, he could use his dinosaur collar neck thing to actually propel himself in the air. So this feels like a combination of those ideas, but applied to the Cerberus. Now that the God Knights are finished talking with Loki, now that their negotiations have fallen through, Gunko creates an arrow bird so that they can escape. That's right, arrow bird. Guys, I said it last week, I'll say it again. Gunko's utilization of the arrow no Mi is crazy. This is more than just creating arrows. She's taking the idea of it and just making it abstract at this point. It's nuts. It's nuts. You know, this arrow bird will take them all the way up to the sun world. Huh? You know what I mean? Like last week, she was using it to attack, and then she also created giant boots, giant hands, and it's like, all right. At what point does she not even have the arrow no Mi, guys? Like, oh my goodness. So she says, Captain, let's clean up here and move on. And that is when he detaches the heads of the Cerberus, and he returns the body of the Cerberus to his blade. Isn't that something? Isn't that absolutely something? So while the 3 heads of the Cerberus are flying around stabbing people, Shamrock still can use his sword at the same time. That is a benefit of having a dog that can detach its heads. So these heads end up flying around, and while Shamrock and Gunko leave, we cut back to Loki one last time, and we see that all 3 of the Cerberus heads pierce him. And this is crazy. You know, last week and the week before, I was like, is somebody gonna save Loki? You know, Loki's been tortured for quite some time now, guys. Can we save Loki now? And I was like, maybe the Cerberus heads don't hit him. Maybe somebody saves him. But no, they pierce him. Bro, Loki is going through the ringer. When we release Loki from this tree, will he even be able to fight at that point? I don't know. Like, maybe there's gonna be like a sensu bean here in Elbaph and he just gets back to 100%. But I just like to imagine that whenever Loki fights in this arc, he's just gonna be severely nerfed. Right? Like, not a lot of people can get stabbed multiple times, beaten black and blue, and then fight like an hour afterwards. Like, I just can't imagine it. Unless whatever devil fruit he ate can actually heal him, I'm not too sure how Loki's gonna fare. So now that the Loki and Cerberus portion of the chapter has been squared away, we gotta talk about the matchup. You know, now that we see that Shamrock has a Cerberus sword, will this be a Zoro opponent? Because not only is the Cerberus, the guard dog of hell, and Zoro is the king of hell, at least in his epithet. But this dog also technically uses 3-sword style. Bro, like, who else in the series can do that? Minus Zoro, right? I mean, technically it uses 3-sword style. I mean, they all have swords coming out of their mouths. So yeah, like, maybe Zoro actually does fight the Cerberus while Luffy fights Shamrocks, and then Nami could fight Gunko? Maybe. I mean, it seems like a good matchup, right? Luffy, Loki versus Shamrock, Zoro versus the Cerberus, Gunko versus Nami. Yeah, I could totally see it. I could totally see it. What's interesting about this, though, is that I have seen people saying that maybe Zoro takes this sword for himself, right? Zoro having a Cerberus sword just makes a lot of sense, but I don't think that's going to happen. And that's simply because of the blade itself. This isn't the type of sword that Zoro typically goes after, right? Zoro uses katanas. This sword is not a katana, right? This is a sword with the guard on it. So I don't think Zoro is going to replace any of his swords with Shamrock's sword. And another reason why I don't think this is going to happen is because this would require us to beat Shamrock. Like, I could see us beating the Cerberus because that's just a dog, right? That's just his sword. But as far as Shamrock goes, I hope he ultimately gets saved for another character to beat. Like Shanks, for example. Shamrock versus Shanks would go absolutely hard. Or maybe even Shamrock versus Mihawk. Mihawk's been looking for an opponent with a sword. You know, he does want to fight Shanks because he lost an arm. He called him a has-been. So, here we have it. A 2-armed Shanks, bro! Like, let's go! So, outside of that, though, now that we've talked about Shamrock and his sword and the Cerberus, I do want to bring up the notion that we could see other sword monsters in the future. Like Garling, for example. Garling has an identical sword, a sword with the guard. You know, where did Shamrock learn this ability in the first place? Who gave him this sword? Maybe it was Daddy, right? Maybe Garling was like, hey, boy, you can wield a sword now? Let me give you a dog. Well, would that be how the conversation would go? I don't know. Another character would be Shanks. Shanks' sword is called Griffin. Shanks has the same type of sword as Garling and as Shamrock. So maybe Shanks' sword can actually turn into a real Griffin. There's a chance. I mean, we have seen Griffin depictions with Shanks before in the past, right? Film Red is a key example. And then we also have the anime where he fights Kid, and then he uses the Kamusari, and then a giant Griffin appears. Of course, that is an anime original scene, not depicted in the manga. But yes, maybe Shanks got his sword from the Holy Land, right? He visited once before. We don't know when, but maybe that is where he got this sword in the first place. Griffin's origins are unknown. So yeah, maybe they said, hey, you're for Garland. I know you don't want to stay in the Holy Land, but since you're my brother, since, you know, you're Garling's son, here's Griffin. This was going to be yours, Shanks. Ooh, that would be kind of fire, man. I don't know. Imagine the final war or Shanks going all out and he whips out his sword and it actually transforms into a mythological creature. I think that'd be so badass. But yes, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Or another way we could spin this is that maybe if Shanks did stay in the Holy Land, he would get the Griffin transformation. But because he decided to stay in the lower realm and not get, you know, blessed by Emu or whatever ability this is, maybe it's just named Griffin, but it actually doesn't have any Griffin powers. And now the last thing I do want to bring up, since we are on the topic of monsters, but what other monsters could we get later in the series that we've already seen before? Like, I'm going back to Impel Down, and we've seen a basilisk, which is this giant snake chicken monster that could freeze people and turn them into stone. We could see that again, but with the Gorosei and with the world government, we could also see sphinxes, manticores, or etc. I think Oda has really opened the bag again, right? He's saying that even if I use this idea in the past, that Thriller Bark, it could come back into the series, but revitalized. One pretty cool outcome of this whole situation would be if Vegapunk finally tells us how swords or inanimate objects can eat devil fruits, because that's something we still don't know about, right? And of course, we still don't even know if the Cerberus is a fruit or not yet, but hopefully Vegapunk sees this and is like, hey, like, Shamrock, did you use this technique, right? Did you use this method to put a monster in your sword? And then maybe that's when we get some more exposition there. But yeah, that is still a mystery we have never really figured out, right? We saw it back in Alabasta where Lasso the dog had a, well, not lasso the dog, but a rocket launcher had the lasso dog devil fruit. And then we went to Eni's lobby, and then we saw Funk Fruit, which was a sword that had an elephant fruit. And then later on, we go to Wano, and I forgot about this one, but there's a teapot that has a Tanuki devil fruit. So it's like, yeah, like what's going on here? Like, how did these inanimate objects eat things? How did they get powers? We have no clue. Vegapunk is attributed for this knowledge, so hopefully he tells us, right? I have seen a lot of crazy theories like, oh, like maybe you take X object and then slap it onto a devil fruit. Maybe you cut a devil fruit with it. Maybe you squeeze, fruit juice on it. Maybe you submerge it in the fruit. I don't know. Like I feel like it's kind of endless with how Oda wants to do this. Like it could get wacky, it could get silly, or it could get really scientific. The world is his oyster. Now, moving back over to Shamrock and Gunko, we see them for one last time while they're flying off to the Sun Realm, and Shamrock says that total subjugation isn't feasible anymore. Now, let's start by taking the children hostage. Genius. A lot of people give him a lot of flack for this, saying, oh, like, Shamrock's a dirty guy going after the kids, but you gotta imagine, that is very effective, right? He wants to take over the country. He wants the giants to bend the knee to the world government. So what do? You hold their kids hostage, right? I'd like to imagine if my son or daughter were being held hostage, I'd be like, yeah, sure, I guess I'll work for the world government, right? It's kind of like Oimo and Kashi. Oimo and Kashi heard that Dory and Brogy were being held by the WG. It was a lie, but Oimo and Kashi bent the knee for 50 years. So if you hold their kids hostage, yeah, a lot of these giants would say, hey, my son is over there. I'll just work, brother. Like it's fine. I don't want my kid to die. I feel like that's very plausible. Yes, it's a scummy tactic, but it is very, very effective. And with this, Shamrock says that they need one more God Knight here. He wants one reinforcement to come over, which is really cocky, by the way. Like, they know the Straw Hats are here. They know Loki's here. They know that the giants of Elbaph are strong. And yet, instead of saying, let's call all the God Knights over, he says, just bring one of those bastards, dude. And I'm like, bro, like, that is aura. I mean, sorry. I don't mean to glaze him too hard, but that's kind of crazy. Like, imagine the Straw Hats were in this situation. You got Luffy and Nami, and then Luffy's like, hey, yeah, just bring one more guy over. Hey, bring Brook over. Hey, Frankie, get him over here. Sanji, yeah. We don't need the rest. We just need one more guy. And now, I'm curious, man, who are they going to bring over? I would love to see if they had an old head still within the God Knights. And when I say old head, I mean somebody we saw back at God Valley, right? Whether it's the guy wearing the skull mask, whether it's the girl with the black outfit, or maybe even the pretty boy, or the guy with the gas mask. I wonder if they're still within the God Knights, or if they were just eventually usurped by a younger generation. I am really curious about that, right? So now that we see that they're going after the kids, we know exactly where they're heading to. They're heading to Walrus Academy. And guys, do you know who is there to hold down the fort? Robin, Chopper, Frankie, and Ripley, depending on how far they went in this chapter. We also have Saul there. Maybe Vegapunk and Bonnie are still nearby because we don't really know where the permit office is, right? That's another questionable one. And then we also have Ange there as well, brah. Oh, man. You guys know me. I've been saying for the longest time that Ange is not a good person. I said that Ange might be a traitor. Is that theory still looking good today? Not exactly, but I gotta hold down the fort. Until the walls crumble, I'm gonna say it, Ange is an evil bastard. But, yeah, jokes aside though, they are heading up there, and we will see some fighting pretty soon. Because I doubt they're just gonna give up the kids without a fight, right? The minute Robin or somebody else sees this or hears about it, they're gonna try to fight Shamrock, despite how fruitless it might be. And that might sound like Robin slander, but I'm sorry, guys. I really just do not see Robin and Chopper winning this battle, right? We have a Shanks older brother twin here with a Cerberus devil fruit, and they're calling in reinforcements. I just can't see it, man. I really can't. And then we have the Elbaph kids, man. They aren't a crop of warriors anymore. These guys are book nerds. The only fighter is Colin. And Colin's at the party, Well, then again, Colin, he was at the party. We saw him running around. We don't know where he's at. But even if Colin was here, man, like, he's the only kid that can fight. So yeah, I think these kids are cooked. I think that they will hold them hostage. Like, think about Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and the rest of them, right? They have no idea this is happening. They're still in the castle figuring out what happened to the guards, right? They're still learning about the Shanks twin brother, and then they're gonna go down and see Loki, and that's it. They're just one step behind of the God Knights. So I don't think they're gonna be able to stop them unless the Straw Hats at the party realize that this is going down and they go to cut them off, right? We're talking about Dory, Brogy, Oimo, Kashi, Sanji, Jimbei, Brook. We also have Usopp up there as well. Like, if every one of those guys realize what's happening and go over there, yeah, I have more hope. But until the big hitters go there, like Luffy and Zoro, like, I don't know, man. This is questionable. It feels like the God Knight's plan is going pretty damn well. So, bringing it back to Ange for a minute, and this is a more serious theory rather than just saying Ange is evil, which I think is still hilarious. I talked last week about King Harold maybe having another son or daughter. We saw that he was spreading his seed far and wide. People believe that King Harold spread his seed so far and wide that we're now questioning if Kaido is one of his offspring just because of the way he looks, right? So that's how crazy King Harold's seed actually is. So, King Harold having another kid, I don't think it looks that bad. And now that their plan for subjugating Elbaph has fallen through and they're going after the kids, maybe they run into another inheritor of the throne besides Loki. Maybe Loki has a sibling and he doesn't know about it, and they instead get them on their side, and then they take Elbaph over peacefully. I don't know. I feel like that is still a really... It's not a plausible theory because there's not a lot going for it. Mine is just headcanon. So I don't want to put too many stocks into it right now, but I do think that is a pretty interesting thought train. So, going on to the next part of the chapter, we have Oust Castle. And we see that Luffy is talking to the guards that were knocked out by Gunko and Shamrock. And Luffy says, "You guys are lying. There's no way that Shanks is the one who beat y'all." And this is what I said last week, right? I said, hey, you know, if you see a guy with red hair, he has a stubble, you know, he has a sword that looks like Shanks, and he has the same voice actor as Shanks, people are gonna think he's Shanks, man. I mean, it's simple as that. Yeah, he's missing the scar, he has the arm, but, I mean, like, what would you think, right? Like, it's crazy. Like, would you rather believe that Shanks just regrew an arm out of nowhere, or the fact that he has a twin brother who's attacking you? All right, like, they're both pretty absurd. So we see that Luffy is vehemently against this, saying, no, Shanks is a great guy. This must have been someone else. We then see that Nami chuckles a little bit about this whole situation because she loves how much Luffy trusts Shanks, right? Nami has never met Shanks, but she really admires their relationship. Luffy turns to her and says, yeah, like, of course I'm mad, Nami. Wouldn't you also be mad if somebody badmouthed Melmir? And I was like, wait, Melmir? And then I saw another translation that said Morimir and then Telmir. And it's like, yeah, like, no matter which translation you go with, Luffy obliterates her name, right? It's not even recognizable anymore. And then Nami even says, wait, it's Belmir-san to you, Luffy, you know? Get it right, put some respect on the name of the dead. And I think it's really interesting that they bring up Belmir-san here. And the reason why, and also, sorry if I'm like mispronouncing it, I watched the English dub last, so that's kind of what I'm going with right now. But either way, we have to remember that Belmir-san is not Nami's actual mom, right? We actually still don't know who Nami's parents are. And again, this is another crackpot theory I just want to throw out there, but what if Nami is a celestial dragon? This is a theory that people have kind of grown more, I would say more accepting to as time has gone on. But now that we know that a God Knight is on their way to Elbaph, and now that we know that Nami still has mysterious origins, it's like, ooh, like, is there going to be some relation? I don't know. That is an idea I really enjoy, but again, just like the Ange theory, it doesn't exactly have too many legs to stand on. But that's why you guys are here, right? If you wanted to read the chapter, you already got it in front of you. You're here for the crazy, crackpot, weird theories. So that is my theory right now. I think that Nami is related to a celestial dragon, and we might meet them soon? Question mark? But yeah, so we go on, and one of the giants actually suggests that Shanks might have a brother, right? Because they're trying to come up with theories that Luffy would like, right? They don't want to make Luffy any more mad than he already is, so they're like, is it a lookalike? Is it a brother? And then that's when Luffy picks up on it. He says, oh, Shanks' brother? It's weird. I never really heard Shanks talk about his family. I never asked. And then he says if Shanks had a family, it would probably just be the people of Roger's crew. And he lists off 3 characters. He says Roger, Rayleigh, and then Buggy. Wait, no, not Buggy, except for Buggy. Not that guy. Which I think is hilarious because we've seen Shanks and Buggy interact, and they're actually very friendly. You know, Shanks and Buggy, they love each other, man. And then we got the flashback where Buggy wanted Shanks to become Pirate King and he wanted to follow him. Oh, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. But I don't blame Luffy. He has not seen them interact. And the one time they should have interacted in front of him, Luffy was unconscious at Marineford. So, yeah, it makes sense. And I think it's really telling, though, that while Luffy says all of this, we see the man off the coast is arriving at the castle. Bro, the timing! The timing, dude! Yeah. Luffy's talking about the Roger Pirates, and then we see this guy. And in this chapter, so this is something that a lot of people, myself included, have already assumed. This was always a 99% thing, but it was never 100%. But we always assumed that this guy is the same guy who met Crocus in a cover page. We made that assumption. And the reason why it was an assumption and not fact is because we never saw the design of his, is that like a robe? I was about to say sweater. Yeah, we never saw the design of his robe until this chapter. So it is now confirmed this guy actually met another member of the Pirate King's crew. So again, who is this guy? You know me. I've always been aboard the Scopper train, and I think this just added more fuel to the fire. He shows up during the damn Roger conversation, man. Come on. And then plus, Luffy, he says Gold Roger. He says Silver Rayleigh. But he's missing out on that one last person. The person that he should have named. Well, should have named is different from what I should have said. Because Luffy doesn't know that Scopper actually exists, right? I bet he's heard stories of the Roger crew, but I doubt he knows Scopper by name like that. So yeah, I think we're going to get that Scopper reveal pretty soon. I still think it could be somebody else, but like I said, I'm putting all the money on Scopper. Like the chances of it being Shiki or some other character we don't know of, I just think it's low. I do. Like, it's either low or Oda's just playing us, right? Because Oda does that a lot, right? He likes to throw us for a loop, so this could be no different, but I mean, I just feel like it's so on the nose. I really do. And then plus, like, think about this too, right? Aside from manga readers, would anime watchers actually think it's Scopper? Because in the anime, we don't see Scopper that much, and then they barely say him by name, too. So maybe it's one of those things where, like, if you read the manga, if you're up to date with the theory community, if you look deep into the Roger Pirate crew, then yeah, like, Scopper is a pretty reasonable answer. But if you watch the anime, you know, I bet you could ask some people who aren't, like, super into One Piece or, like, just staying up to date with it, and you're like, yeah, it could be Scopper, and then you'll get, like, one or two people who say, wait, what? Who's Scopper? Maybe that's what Oda's going for, but, you know, again, I don't know. So now, moving on to the last part of the chapter, we cut over to Frankie's group. And by Frankie's group, I mean him and Ripley, the best combo there is, god damn it. And we see that they're heading to the Atom Tree. Frankie is gooning out because he sees that there's so much wood here. And Ripley's like, maybe I should start selling some. Frankie responds to Ripley's comment, and it really surprised me. You know, he's like, whoa, I would love the wood, but Saul said to not cut it down, right? Saul said that this tree is sacred. I don't want to touch it. It's all good. And I'm like, wait, who is this guy? Frankie, you're not going to take the atom wood? I don't know. Like, it's just funny thinking about where Frankie started versus where he is now. Because in the beginning, you know, Frankie bought atom wood from the black market. And now Frankie's like, whoa, like, I actually don't want it anymore. You know, it's a sacred tree. I need permission. It's all good, Ripley. But it does make me wonder, like, where did Frankie get his wood from? Was it from this tree or was it from a different tree? Right? Because we know that other atom trees exist in the world, so maybe it was from a different country. But it would be interesting seeing if there were giants cutting this tree in secrecy and then selling it on the black market. You know, maybe we'll learn a little bit about all those dealings. But I think that's like the smallest thing to make note of in this chapter, right? Like, guys, we have the Mural, we got Shamrock, the God Knights, we got the kids, and then we have the Atomwood black market. Take your pick. Which one do you want to know more about, y'all? So, Frankie and Ripley stumble upon the mural that is etched into the tree. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, what did they come here for originally? Like, Frankie said he was interested in the tree. So what? Like, he was going to come over here and look at it and then leave? Like, they didn't come here for the mural. They stumbled upon the mural. So it's kind of fascinating, right? Their journey isn't over yet. But yeah, Frankie sees the mural and he's a little bit confused by this. Ripley says it's graffiti from eons ago. Some kids probably etched right into the bark and it got fossilized. It's now designated as a cultural heritage site, thanks to its enormous historical value. Frankie says, is a punk's doodle that big of a deal? And then Ripley says, yeah, it was said to date somewhere between 900 and 800 years ago. That would place it right in the middle of the Void Century. Frankie says, we gotta show Robin, she'll love this. And then he follows it up and says, hey, ain't this drawing kind of odd for old Elbaph? Not all the figures here look like giants. And then Ripley says, quite. As far as we know, there were definitely times where the races of the world clashed, but this kind of cooperation is unheard of. That's why I think this is just some kid's dream. And Ripley looks amazing in that panel. So that is when we cut over to the Walrus School. We see the kids, they're having fun before Shamrock arrives, and then we see Ange teaching class, that dirty, dirty evil girl. And then next up we go to the Owl Library and we see that Robin and Saul are going to finally decipher the Harley Text. And Saul says that the Harley Text has 3 distinct sections, each of which refers to a specific world. The first world, second world, and third world, with the third world being the world that we inhabit currently. And now, here we go. It's mural time, guys. So, how do I want to tackle this? I still don't know. I spent this entire video just thinking about how I want to do this. What I'm going to do, so to avoid copyright, I had the mural redone and colored by somebody else so that I could show it on the screen. So we got that ready to go. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the right side from the left side, and we'll tackle it bit by bit and talk about what each and every thing or drawing could be. And first up, I do want to talk about the text. So yeah, let's talk about the text first. And I do have a couple of different translations pulled up because I think translations will matter. I don't think any of these translations is going to be perfect. And even when the Viz comes out, I don't think that's going to be perfect either. We've seen many times where the Viz has also made mistakes in the past and or made really strange decisions. So I think this is one of those things where we have to really broaden our horizons. And with that being said, I do want to recommend a close friend of the channel to you guys, and that person is Luna PN and or Dawn and Dust. They do really great Japanese translations. They are Japanese, so they are the ones I would trust the most when it comes to this, but they will not be posting a video until about Monday because they do wait for the official release. So definitely give them a sub and a follow. They have great dissections on One Piece. So now, time for my really bad dissection. Time to hop into the ring, boys. So let's start with the first world. So right here, I have the Will of Marco over on Twitter's translation. He is another Japanese translator. I do trust his translations a lot. He's kind of like a second Sandman in my opinion. So his translation says, in the earth there was a flame. The people were consumed by greed and touched the forbidden sun. The enslaved people prayed. The god of the sun appeared. The god of the earth was angered. Together with the serpent of karmic flame, the world was engulfed in death and darkness. They won't ever meet again. So, time to read the TCB translation, and they say, the earth burned in endless flame, and in the hearts of men burned with desire. From whispered prayers, the sun god rose, beckoned by the enslaved who reached for the forbidden star. The god of the land was enraged. With the serpent of fire, they cast the world into ruin. Darkness fell, death reigned. They would not meet again. And next up we have OP Scanalations, and they say the first world. There was fire upon the earth. Humanity succumbed to desire and touched the forbidden sun. The slaves made a wish, and the god of the sun appeared, but the god of the earth became enraged. And alongside, the serpent of hell enveloped the world in darkness and death. They could never meet again. Yeah, so you guys see what I mean? All of these translations, while they kind of say the same thing, the order and the wording changes a little bit. So that's why I think it's really important to get as many sources as possible when it comes to this. So now that we've read 3 different translations for this, I do want to try and dissect what it might be talking about. And then we'll move on to the second world, and then the third world, and then the mural. So I'm going to be using the Will of Marco's translations for this segment, simply because I think his translations are more on the nose and or easier to dissect. You could disagree, that's totally fine. And also, I highly doubt that anyone will walk out of this page with the same one-to-one interpretation of it. And that's totally fine. And I actually think that's good because, again, it's like having multiple translations. We're having multiple people tackle this from different angles. So, with that being said, this right here is my idea. In the earth, there was flame. automatically I think of the Mother Flame. I feel like everybody's kind of on the same boat, hopefully. But yes, I think the Mother Flame is what they're talking about. And this flame is also used as a fuel source. It is what Vegapunk uses to fuel a lot of Egghead Island. Next, they say the people were consumed by greed and touched the Forbidden Sun. So right here, I kind of see this like Adam and Eve, right? The apple that's on the tree of knowledge. I kind of see this like maybe the people really wanted more and more, right? What they had wasn't enough. They wanted more energy. So they went out and got the forbidden source, the forbidden sun that they should have never taken. Like maybe perhaps you could take small portions of the Mother Flame, but you can't take the Mother Flame itself. And that is what somebody did here. And now, because of that, I'm going to make a logical leap onto the next sentence, but I think when they touched the forbidden sun, the sun went away. There was no sun anymore. Their fuel source is gone. And that is why the next thing we see is that the enslaved people prayed. And I'm like, okay, if the Mother Flame is a fuel source, why are there enslaved people? Why is that a thing right now? So I think that's because whoever touched it made the sun go away, and now to make up for the missing fuel source, they went to slave labor. So now the enslaved people are like, I really wish the sun came back. I really wish the sun came back so that we don't have to be enslaved. And then because of all of their praying, the sun god appeared. So the praying ended up working. And then the god of the earth was enraged by this. And this is a hard one. I don't know why the god of the earth would be mad that the sun came down. Is it because the sun god doesn't belong on Earth? I could see that, right? The sun and the earth, they're two different planets. So if the sun were to come down, maybe it's like a territorial thing. Maybe the god of earth is like, whoa, go back over there, buddy. You don't belong here. Maybe it's like that. Or perhaps the god of the earth actually really enjoyed slave labor. Maybe they thought that having a fuel source made people too greedy. Maybe he knew that at one point they would just have to go back to slave labor anyways. So that is why he doesn't like the sun. And next, it says, together with the serpent of karmic flame, and of course, when we talk about serpents, we always go back to the red line, right? We go back to Jormungandr, or the blood-soaked serpent that Dory and Brogy talked about back in Little Garden. Maybe this is, where they got that from. So yes, he has a giant serpent. We don't know what it is, but here's the thing, right? If we're talking about the god of earth itself having a snake, I do think it would be the red line. I just feel like that makes the most sense, right? God of earth, rocks, rubble, debris, ground, terrain. Like, I just think it's the red line, guys. I really do. And then it says, the world was engulfed in death and darkness. They won't ever meet again. So I'm going to tackle the they won't ever meet again line later. But as far as the world was engulfed in death and darkness, I think that's pretty straightforward. I think the sun god died. I think the god of the earth, maybe even the karmic serpent, I think they were successful. Perhaps there is a scenario where the god of the earth, the snake, and the sun god all died. Like maybe all three of them just passed away during the battle. I think that'd be kind of cool. But yeah, at the very least, I do believe that the sun god perished right here. And now we move on to the second world. And again, before I start dissecting it, I will read all three translations in front of me. So first up, we have in nothingness. This is Willamarco. There was breath. The god of the forest sent forth demons. The sun only spread the flames of war. The people of the half moon saw a dream. The people of the moon saw a dream. The people killed the sun and became gods. The god of the sea was enraged. They won't ever meet again. And next up, we have TCB. Sorry, I gotta scoot in a little bit closer. My eyes are bad. And then, of course, TCB has small text. The second world. A breath stirred in the abyss. The god of the forest wove their magic, nurturing its devils, while the sun lit the embers of war. Those of the half moon and full moon dreamed. Yet, the ones who slew the sun deified themselves, evoking the wrath of the sea god. They would not meet again. And now, last but not least, we also have OP scans. What do they say here? They say, there was a breath upon the emptiness. The god of the forest sent forth demons. The sun merely spread the embers of war. The people of the half moon dreamed. The people of the moon dreamed. Humanity killed the sun and then ascended to divinity. The god of the sea became enraged. They could never meet again. So now, as far as my interpretation of this, when they talk about breath, I think that they are talking about a monster and not Sun God Nika. I think another monster emerged in this period. And this is a stretch, but 2 or 3 years ago, Oda actually wrote the video game One Piece Odyssey. I know, a One Piece game, sorry, what are you talking about here? So Oda actually is in charge of a lot of the games and the narrative of them, right? He actually writes a good amount of the plot. That's one of the main selling points of the game, written by Oda. And in One Piece Odyssey, there was an ancient weapon called the Divine Breath. It's like a fourth and secret ancient weapon, but Oda created it. Essentially, it was a mechanical monster that could change the weather and fight people. It was insane. In the video game, it's not that cool as a final boss, but, you know, it was a thing. It was a thing. So maybe that's what they're talking about here. Maybe in the nothingness, this monster came forth, and that is why the god of the forest sent demons to fight off this monster or ancient weapon. That is kind of my take on this. And then as far as the demons go, I think that those are the forms we've seen thus far from the world government. I'm talking about the Cerberus, Itsumare, Gyuki, Bokotsu, Sandworm, etc. I think those are the monsters and demons that the god of the forest made here. Of course, again, my speculation. And I think it is a little bit poetic if the god of the forest made demons to fight this mechanical monster, right? We're talking about nature versus machine. I think that's a classic trope that we've seen time and time again. And as far as this breath or monster goes, I think that this is going to be a mechanical one, just like in the video game. And I think the reason why the 20 kingdoms banded together to fight the ancient kingdom is because the ancient kingdom is the one who made this divine breath. That is my take, because, you know, going back to the video game, it is mechanical. Nobody could make that except for the ancient kingdom. And I think that would be a really good reason as to why so many people banded together to fight them. So that is my take on that. And then next up, it also says the sun only spread the flames of war. And again, if Joyboy was from the ancient kingdom and the ancient kingdom created this monster, then yeah, that is why they're all fighting. Not saying that Joyboy or the Ancient Kingdom wanted to create this monster, I think it just simply happened, and they're just victims of this whole thing as well. And now, on to the next part, they say, the people of the half moon saw a dream, and the people of the moon saw a dream. So as far as this goes, we don't know what they're exactly referring to, right? When we think about half moon, it goes back to an old theory that the D clan isn't exactly the letter D, but instead it's a symbol for the half moon, right? I think that's a pretty common theory right now, and seeing that the half moon people are mentioned here, I do believe it more. So yeah, we could be talking about the D clan, and then the people of the full moon could just be people from around the world, like the 20 kings and queens.
So going back to what dream the D clan saw,
I think the people of the D clan knew that they would lose, and that is their dream. They saw that they were going to lose right here and right now, so that is why they drew this mural, for example. Like Ripley in this chapter says that this mural must be a children's dream. So I think that they knew that they were cooked. So instead of winning the war that's at their doorstep, they instead planted the seeds to win 900 years later in the third world, our current timeline. And as far as the people of the moon, I think they saw something else entirely. I think they saw the potential to win in this current war, the second world, and they beat the D-Clan, and they claimed their spots as gods, which brings us to the next sentence, right? The people killed the sun and became gods. The only gods we know of right now in the current story are the celestial dragons, and we knew that they became those gods 900 years ago. So it's very obvious that the people of the full moon are the celestial dragons. And bringing it back to the D-Clan, I gotta say, right? If this theory is true, that the D-Clan is just a symbol of the half moon, then the celestial dragons already have the full moon symbol right there. So I don't know if you guys know this. I mean, I've talked about this so many times, so if you've been here, you know about it as well. But when it comes to Imu, the Gorosei, and the Holy Knights, and just the world government in general, they love the number 16. And I always thought that was kind of odd. Like, even Doflamingo, for example, has an attack called 16 Holy Bullets, right? Like, 16 is their motif. And the reason why I think that's the case is because there are 16 phases of the moon. And then not just that, we go over to the celestial dragon hoof, right? The claw print that we see. In the middle of it is a circle. If we're saying that the D-Clan is a half moon, then the circle within that hoof could just be the full moon. That is what I'm thinking of right now. So, the people of the full moon killed the sun god, and they became gods of the world. And then the next part says that the god of the sea was enraged. So this is an odd one. A lot of people look at Imu They see what they're doing, and they're like, oh, Emu is raising water levels. Emu must be the god of the sea, or the god of rain, or whatever have you. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think Emu might just be a regular person, or he could be a different god that we have not heard about yet. And you might be wondering why. Why would Emu not be the god of the sea? Backwards, their name is Umi, right? It's right there, Sai. And the reason why is because it says that the god of the sea is enraged. Why would Emu, if he's the god of the sea, be mad that celestial dragons killed the sun and became gods, right? There's like a disconnect there for me. So the idea I'm kind of playing with right now is that 900 years ago, the celestial dragons were the primary users of devil fruits. They abused the hell out of them. So much so that when they won, the god of the sea became enraged, and now if you have a devil fruit, you sink into the bottom of the ocean. It is the ocean's curse against the celestial dragons. It's got nothing to do with the pirates or the D-clan. They're just, side victims in all of this. So, because the celestial dragons are cursed by Mother Nature, by the sea itself, they then decided to live on top of the red line to avoid the ocean at all costs. That also could explain why they have those stupid spacesuit bubbles. Maybe it's just in case they sink into the ocean and that they could actually breathe inside of their suit. Will it actually work? I don't think so. I feel like once you can't move in the ocean, you're kind of cooked. Doesn't matter if you can breathe or not, and then pressure will eventually get to you, but that's besides the point. And now that they are cursed, and because they relied so much on devil fruits in the past, they needed a new source of power. And that is when they started not using devil fruits, and instead they started switching over to the demon forms that we see from the Gorsei and with Shamrock's sword. They switched over just so that they could retain power without being cursed by the sea anymore. So for example, if Shamrock or the Gorsei were to go into the ocean, I do not think they would sink because they found a workaround. They found a workaround to the sea god's curse. And as far as how they got these demon forms, I could see this being a couple of different ways. One, they have the god of the forest in their ranks and they're holding him hostage, or maybe they're siphoning out the god of the forest's energy. Or maybe they captured those demons 900 years ago and now they're just signing pacts with the Gorsei or with the God Knights. Those are the two scenarios I see right here. But yes, TLDR, Emu is not the god of the sea in my opinion, and actually, the reason why devil fruits sink is because of the celestial dragons. The hoof of the celestial dragon is actually just the markings of the full moon, and they disguised it as the hoof of the dragon. Or then again, maybe there was a dragon in the past and they just combined it together, right? Like if you're friends with the dragon and you're trying to think of a logo, why not combine the moon with the claw? So now on to the third world. So I'm going to read Will of Marco first. He says, in the chaos there was void. The inconvenient traces remembers the promised day. The voice of the fragmented moon is heard. The god of the sun dances and smiles and guides the world to its end. The sun returns. A new morning is coming. They will surely meet again. And now for TCB. Again, gotta scoot up a little bit for this one. Sorry. Chaos reigns. The world drifts into a void. Yet, time does not erase the memory of the promised day. Its shadow looms as the voice of the half-moon echoes throughout the ages. And once more, the sun god shall rise, laughing and dancing, guiding the world to its final act. The sun is reborn. A new dawn will break. Surely, this time, they will meet again. And now, time to finish it off with OP scans, but they say, there was void upon the chaos. The unbidened shadows remember the day of the promise, and they hear the voice of the fragmented moon. The god of the sun dances and laughs, guiding the world to its end. The sun will return, and a new dawn will come. They will surely meet again. So, here we have it. The third world, our present day, our future is all said right here. I do think it is very ambiguous. I don't think Oda wants to give hints to like how everything's going to play out, right? He's not going to say, oh, the D-clan wins and kills this person, kills that person. The god of the sea is happy again. No. He keeps it very short, sweet, and simple. I think dissecting this one's going to be pretty easy. So again, going with the Will of Marco's translation, when they say in the chaos there was void, of course, it's the void century, right? There's a lot of chaos going on, and they just erase it from history, aka the void century. The inconvenient traces remembers the promised day. So right here, I believe that they're talking about the full moon clan. A lot of people believe they're talking about the D-Clan here, but I think this right here specifically is the full moon. Maybe they remember Toki's prophecy, for example, right? Orochi remembered Toki's prophecy all 20 years, and he feared it every single damn day of his life. I think this right here is Imu and the Celestial Dragons fearing the return of Nika, fearing the war that the D-Clan talked about. All right, so I had to cut the video off for a second because the roof people came back and they started knocking for a solid 4 hours straight. Hate this, hate this, hate this. But here we are. Where did we leave off? The fragmented moon? Yes, the voice of the fragmented moon is heard. Obviously, I do think that refers to the D-Clan, right? Fragmented moon, half moon. There we have it. I think this is when the D-Clan either comes together as a full unit, or perhaps when the D-Clan remembers the Void Century, because I think that will also be key. And next up, it says, the god of the sun dances and smiles. Obviously, Nika appears. We got Luffy being Nika. Maybe Luffy doesn't fulfill this role yet, right? Because Luffy still doesn't know he's Nika. Like, Luffy still thinks he has the Gumu Gumu no Mi, so somebody really has to sit him down and say, hey, you are Nika, you don't have to accept it, but here's the Nika lore, right? I feel like at some point Luffy has to find a middle ground with the whole Nika plotline. And now, guides the world to its end. So this is a weird one. I have seen people saying that by ending a world, you're technically recreating it or resetting it. And I like that idea. I feel like that's the most plausible one because I don't think it's literal. Like, I don't think the world of One Piece is going to explode, right? And we're all going to live on the moon or live on a different planet. That would be insane. So I do think it's just going to be us resetting it, maybe setting things straight, destroying the red line, releasing the oceans, finding the all blue, maybe destroying the hierarchical system with the celestial dragons. I feel like there's a lot of ways this could be interpreted. And then, of course, we have the prophecy with Madame Charlie, who said, yeah, Luffy's going to destroy Fishman Island one day. So maybe he does destroy some aspects of the world, but only to make it better in the long run, right? It's kind of like, I'm trying to think, what is a good example of this? Like chopping down a tree so that it grows faster? Is that a thing? Or is that just like a tall tale? It's like, you shave your beard, but your beard grows back stronger tomorrow, which actually is kind of true. I feel like it's such a pain in the ass. So now, the sun returns, and I think this refers to eternal energy, the perfect mother flame. And this goes back to Vegapunk's dream about how he wanted to share a fuel source with the entire world. I think that is what it is. Vegapunk's going to figure out a way to do this with the help of Luffy. And now for the last part, a new morning is coming. The dawn is here. Surely they will meet again. So this does tie back to the original title of One Piece and Chapter 1's title, which is Romance Dawn. We do not know what they mean there, right? Is there a romantic story on the horizon? Will we learn about some kind of star-crossed lover situation going back eons and eons ago? Maybe. Maybe this has to do with Adam and Eve, perhaps. Or maybe this is the gods, right? Maybe the sea god and the sun god or some other god, they wanted to get together, but maybe the circumstances just never allowed for that to happen. I think that could be the case here. But yeah, there's a lot of great things with the Harley Text, a lot of ways you could interpret it. Please, please, please let me know what you guys think about the Harley Text down below. So now, on to the mural. And this is a rough one, and we could spend hours and hours on this. And I might just do a live stream about this later as well, just to see like what the general consensus is. But the main and first question we have to tackle before heading into the mural is, what world does this depict? People are saying, oh, this part is the first world, that part's the second world, blah, blah, blah. Maybe this is all the second world, maybe this is all the first world or all the third world. I think that right there is already going to be a very divisive thing, right? Because unlike the Harley Text, where we know the words, we see the words and we get a general gist of it, the mural doesn't have a label. The mural doesn't say, oh, this is X world or this is Y world. No. So we have to come to that conclusion separately. Me personally, I think that this mural is all the third world. I do. And I came to that conclusion because of a couple of things. The first one being the fact that we see the Arc Maxim, or what I believe to be the Arc Maxim, in the mural. That is an Enel thing. That is Enel 100%, right? Enel had the Arc Maxim built in Skypiea, right? There's no way that existed in the Void Century. Well, Okay, no way is a crazy word to say because we actually don't know what happened in the Void Century, so maybe there was one. But I do think this is tied to Enel. So that right there is one reason why I think that's the case. And another reason why I think this is a third world is because of what Ripley says in this chapter. Going back to when Ripley and Frankie first saw the mural, Ripley said, yeah, you know, we've seen races fight together and sometimes they come together, but never like this. So that is why I'm like, okay, like if she doesn't think this has ever happened, maybe that is what Oda's trying to tell us. Like, yeah, this is still a prophecy that is yet to come. And she even says that this could just be a child's dream. So yeah, I totally think that all of this right here is the third world, our current day in timeline. So I'm going to separate this into left and right, and we are going to tackle this one by one. So real quick, let me pull up MS Paint, and then we'll kind of try to play with this format a little bit. Okay, so we got MS Paint up and running, and look at this. I can circle things to make it a little bit easier on us. So real quick, let's talk about the moon. Do they mean the actual moon? Is the moon gonna come down to Earth? I don't think so. I think the moon will stay where it's at. I think it'll stay in space. But I think the reason why the moon is in the picture is because of this. I do think that this right here is Enel. He's coming from the moon. And look at this. You see the lightning bolt. Enel, bro, this is Enel coded 100%. So that is why I think the moon is in the frame. So as far as the other things we see, right? We see this creature right here. I call it creature because we have this weird trunk. I think this is a depiction of Zunisha. I kind of wish Oda put like an eye right here so that we could know it's Zunisha for sure. But I do think that this might be Zunisha. Zunisha, of course, we have the Noah's Ark right here. We got civilians, we got the animals. And again, Noah's Ark coded. We see 2 animals, 2 humans, 2 deer. Very, very, very much like Noah's Ark from the Bible. And next up, we have machinery and high-rises. This was shocking, right? We see this, and I feel like as people in 2025, we know what this means. But in the world of One Piece, skyscrapers, square windows? What the hell? I think that this is supposed to be indicative of the Void Century in the Ancient Kingdom. If you recall, I said that this entire mural is of the third world. So why are we seeing the Ancient Kingdom here? I don't think the Ancient Kingdom still exists. I think the reason why we see it, though, is because that is where this creature comes from. I think Oda is trying to describe where this creature originated from, and it's pretty much telling us that it is from the Void Century, and maybe it was birthed by Ancient Kingdom technology. And speaking of Ancient Kingdom technology, we also see that they are, advanced in their technological, because we go down below and we see these gears and cogs running this whole industry up. And as far as the people goes, this is the one thing in the entire mural that I have no idea, right? We see this endless cycle. You have people coming from the Void Century. They have these weird energy balls. They hop on this elevator and they get a Dragon Ball Z halo. They get a Dragon Ball Z halo indicating that they died. So what I'm getting is that the Void Century people die and then later they're reborn. And they're trying to bring this energy source to whoever is standing atop of the Noah's Ark. But Enel or whoever this is, right? Ark Maxim, they cut in. They interfere. So instead of this energy source going to the people, it goes back to the Void Century. It goes back to this Leviathan fire-breathing monster. This could very well be the karmic serpent that the first world talked about. Maybe even the red line is what I'm getting at. And another thing with this too is that we could also say that this might just be the D-Clan, right? Maybe the D-Clan existed in the Ancient Kingdom. This is a symbol of the D-Clan or the energy that they had, their wills, their spirits, their souls, what have you. They die, and then they get reborn. That could be why we still have the D-Clan existing today, like Monkey D. Luffy. It got passed down into the next generation. Maybe that is what it's symbolizing, but I'm not too sure. Like I said, this is the one part of the mural that I have no definitive answer on. So, as far as this serpent goes, though, right, this giant creature, fire-breathing thing, I do think that this is tied to Elbaph because we see this design in this pattern running all throughout its body. And while I don't have the left side of the mural up right now, we do see that the giant figure in the left side, he has the same markings as this snake. So I do think this is something that will get mentioned here in Elbaph. This could even be the blood-soaked serpent that Dorian Brogy talked about. So as far as what this thing is fighting, right? It's fighting this creature that seemingly exists atop of the tree. What is this? What is this monster? Is this a dragon? I think it might actually be a dragon. This could even be a celestial dragon, right? We still don't know why they're called celestial dragons. Of course, they are gods, but the celestial dragon might have been a real thing, and maybe that's what this is right here. I think it would be pretty cool if that was the explanation. Another thing I kind of thought of too is that this comes from above, right? Maybe that is supposed to be a hint that this exists also in Elbaph, because we don't know what the Heaven Realm is about yet, right? The Heaven Realm is still a mystery. Maybe this thing exists in the Heaven Realm because it sits atop of the tree, or it's atop of the tree in this mural. So yeah, that is my interpretation of this. I got Void Sentry being referenced. I got people dying, their wills or souls being brought back, but before it's brought back fully, this serpent just keeps on consuming it. Of course, if I'm going with my thought train that this is all the third world, we will see this pretty soon. Next up, we have the left side of the mural. So I think this is going to be a lot easier to explain. I mean, I feel like everybody looks at this and they're like, yeah, we know what's happening here, right? So since we're going with my third world theory for this video, I think that this right here is Luffy. I don't know why he has a shield and a sword. Of course, that is not very Luffy-like. Maybe he gets something like that in Gear 5th later on, but I think that this is Luffy. Sun God Nika, right here we have a Lunarian. Right here we have a whale, which could be the island whales, right? Laboon has a family. He has a whole bunch of family members, so maybe the island whales come back and play a role. Right here we have this white creature. I think this could just be a Sulong form mink. And then right here we have that same creature, and maybe this is the minks that are not in Sulong form. Next up we have this robot, which, you know, it's very much Emeth, right? This looks like Emeth. It's got the horns, it's got the arms. Yeah, I think this is Emeth. Right here, we got a giant wielding what seems to be a long spear. I think this could be Loki. I think that this is very much Loki, and that this giant stick he's holding is the giant sword we see here in Elbaph. I think that could be it. Maybe it could even be Devil Fruit related. And again, I mentioned that the snake on the right side of the mural has the same design pattern as the left side. It's because of this right here. You know, look at his waistband. This is what you see on the snake. And right here, I think is another giant, of course, because he has that Viking hat and the shield. And he does also have that same marking as the snake too. Another reason why I think that snake is going to be very Elbaph coded. Next up, we have Shirahoshi, a mermaid princess, and some fish. I think this is just because she's Poseidon, and boom, 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 there you have her. And right beside her, kind of small, but you could see a Tontada member, right? Those small bastards sneak their way into every picture. Love to see it, love to see it. And now, as far as the ships go, right here we have the markings of the sun, also the Alabasta flag. So yes, I think this is a sign that the D-Clan, or Alabasta in general, will take a part in this war. Next up, we have this right here, and I'm gonna be honest, bro, look at these guys. Look at that. The samurai top knot. You got a Kunoichi with a shuriken, a sword. Yeah, this is Wano. This is Wano, guys. This is Wano. Next up, we got some other ships. Not exactly super remarkable. But I did find one thing very interesting. So my thumbnail guy didn't exactly color this the way that was shown in the mural, but this ship right here at the bottom, this was actually black. Out of all of the ships, this was black. And I think that is because this could be the man marked by flames. Or it could be Dragon. Dragon also has a somewhat black ship, so maybe it's Dragon the Revs. But yes, this is the one and only black ship. I think this could just be the man marked by flames. Maybe they're on our side. It's revealed they're an ally later. But yeah, I think that's what this ship is supposed to represent. And I've seen people saying, where is the Navy? Where are the Marines? Where's the, people who might betray Emu or even assisting Emu in this picture? And I think it is actually this right here. So odd to say, and of course, this is theory crafting. This doesn't have to be correct. If I'm wrong, so be it. but this is the one ship in the entire portrait, in the entire mural, that has horizontal flags. Or sails, I should say. Look at everybody else. Vertical, 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 vertical. And then we have this ship being the only horizontal one. Why is that? I think it's to show that they are in opposition. They were the opposition. They were not on the same side as any of the other ships, but eventually they caved in, and now you could see them sailing towards this giant monster. So I think this is a depiction of the Marines or Sword, or we could even throw the Revs as this, right? I already said this might be the Revs, but maybe this is the Revs. I think there is a chance of that. So now, on to the next portion of this, we have this ship right here. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I think this ship is Blackbeard. Of course, right? They're on a ship, but as you see, they're sailing against all of the other ships. It looks like they're working with this giant monster. The only pirate group that I could see working with Emu is Blackbeard. I don't think he's going to be sucking up to Emu or, his best friend, but I think Blackbeard will be working for his own goal, and that this is what that represents. This is Blackbeard on Emu's side. We know that we have to fight Blackbeard eventually. We know that he is a threat to the world, and we also know that Emu is a threat to the world, so why not put them on the same side and we fight them one after the other? And now, next up, we got this right here, the sun. I think this is because Emu has the Mother Flame. Well, they do have the Mother Flame, right? They got Yorick, they got Egghead Island. I think that is what this is supposed to represent. So yeah, very obviously Mother Flame, or maybe even the original Flame as well, right? Maybe they have the original Flame from the Void Century and even further back, right? Because they touched the Forbidden Sun a long time ago. Maybe that's what this is. One thing I've seen people saying is that this could just be the Gorosei. This could be the God Knights. And I don't think that's a bad idea, but I'm gonna be honest. I think that this right here could be a depiction of the God Knights, or maybe even the Gorosei, right? We got stars in the sky. It looks like Emu is sending them forth. I think that is what that is. And now, going back to the right image, let me see. There we go, right image. It could also be what we see here, right? Maybe this is the power that the world government and Emu are using for themselves. I think the monster on the right side and the monster on the left side
are working together.
And maybe this monster is collecting the energy to give to Emu to use as a fuel source or as a weapon, right? The demon yokai forms, the devil fruits even. I think that is what it's supposed to represent. And now going back to this image one last time, of course, we got to tackle the monster in the room. Let me zoom out a little bit. This right here. I think it's Emu. Easy to say. I think this is Emu. We got the 3 horns right here, the 3-pointed crown. I think this is him. I mean, of course, like, when you look at this thing, like, and you had to correlate this to a character, I just think it's Emu. I've seen people saying that these giant monsters, the one on the tree, the one on the right side, the one on the left side, that should be like, the god of earth, god of the forest, and then god of rain. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think the gods are actually depicted in this mural. So one thing I've been kind of wondering about now is, where are the ancient weapons? Because obviously Shirahoshi is Poseidon, right? This is Poseidon. This is one of the ancient weapons. Where are the other 2? Well, my thumbnail guy did not draw it in, but we also had rain droplets coming from above. I think those rain droplets could be Uranus. I think that's Uranus coded. Obviously I think Oda wanted to hide it a little bit, so that's why we don't see that. So now, as far as Pluton goes, where is Pluton? Well, I'm gonna be honest. I have no clue. But maybe Pluton is one of these ships. Maybe the ship with the double sail is Pluton. Or maybe, throwing it back to the island whale, because we saw Laboon and Laboon was decked out. Maybe Pluton looks like a whale. We do know that it is currently existing underwater in ancient Wano. So maybe Pluton is, a mechanical whale of some sort. I think that could be a case. Of course, I'm not entirely married to that idea. But yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting takeaways here. And now going back, we're switching back and forth between left and right. But going back to this one last time, I don't know who this is. Of course, they have the 3-pointed crown like Emu has. but I don't think this is Emu because I put Emu on the far left. So this could actually just be another king or queen that leads the Noah's Ark up the tree or to safety. I'm trying to think about like who would be tasked with that role though. Like if you were to think about one character in the series who you would look at and say, hey, guy, here's the Noah's Ark, take us to safety. I don't know who would do that. Perhaps this could be King Neptune from Fishman Island, but I mean, I feel like if this was King Neptune, because he also has a crown, he would be drawn a lot bigger. Like, no offense to King Neptune, but I feel like if you put him in here, you kind of wouldn't omit the fact that this guy's like massive, right? And now last but not least, we have this angel figure on the right side. And I don't know, you know, angel figure, like, is somebody going to come back from the dead? Ooh, or this could even be a Cleboterman, right? Cleboterman are the spirit of ships. So maybe we see a Cleboterman for the Noah's Ark, and they're the ones heading this mission. I'm not exactly super sure. But I mean, that is the whole point of the mural, right? I feel like nobody's going to have like a perfect understanding. And now, for the last thing I want to talk about, I don't exactly have this drawn out. Let me see. Actually, do I? Oh, wait, I do. Okay, so right here. Frankie is actually standing here, right? Frankie in the manga is actually blocking what's going on right here. I had my thumbnail guy just draw nothing because we don't know. But there is a really good chance that Frankie is blocking something really important in the middle. I feel like that's going to be the case. That seems like an Oda thing to do. And we have to remember, in this chapter, Frankie says that he wants to bring Robin back here so that she can see this. So if we see this mural one more time, we could see what Frankie is blocking. And I feel like this will be really important because look at Enel. Look at the Arc Maxim. This thing is shooting a beam into whatever Frankie is blocking. So this could just be, maybe it's a character, right? We could see like maybe, I'm just going to draw somebody here. Maybe this is the people who need to reunite, right? Because every message of the world ends with, oh, like they're not going to meet. And then the third world says, oh, maybe they will meet this time. Maybe this is who they're trying to help. Maybe this is the we or they that they're talking about. Oh my God, I just keep on doing this with paint. So I've been cutting these out, but like this is the third time where I've just like messed up and deleted everything in paint. I'm so bad at this, dude. What is going on? Okay, there we go. So another thing I've been thinking of is that maybe here in the middle of the tree is, let me draw it up. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. There we go. You guys see it? This is a treasure chest. This could be the One Piece. Maybe this is them defending and fighting for the One Piece, and then Enel is trying to swoop in and get it. I don't like this idea that much because it looks like everybody's defending it. I feel like as far as the One Piece goes, it's like a treasure you get later, you know, on either side. But I do like the treasure idea in general. But yeah, overall, it looks like they're defending whatever is in the middle of this tree. Not too sure what it is, and I feel like I've been saying not too sure a lot here, but I'm sure everybody is as well. But yes, with that being said though, guys, let me know your thoughts on the mural. Do you think this is the first world, second world, both, or the third world? I would love to hear your thoughts down below. And also, what are your theories coming off the Harley Text and everything? There is a lot to talk about, a lot to dissect, and I might just end up hosting a live stream later on where we just look at this mural and have some fun with it and just come up with wacky theories. But yeah, again, thank you guys so much for being here. I really freaking appreciate your time, your patronage, and all that good stuff. If you want to check me out on the side on Twitch, you can find me over at SYVDUCK. I stream every other day. I also have a YouTube channel called Syvduck as well, where I talk about random topics or just put gameplay videos on there. I also have Somnus Reacts, where I'm currently reacting to Sakamoto Days, Dragon Ball, Daima, as well as solo leveling. So if you're curious about that, also linked down below. But yep, I'll catch y'all later. I can already hear the roof and construction people back at work, so any minute now, I'm gonna be drowned out by the sounds of loud banging over my head. Peace out, y'all. Have a good one.